So what if she's awake? Her hands and feet were tightly bound, and the suitcase was locked with a code. No matter how capable she was, she couldn't escape. Besides, through the suitcase and the trunk, her voice was faint. Unless someone pressed their ear to the trunk, it'd be hard to notice. And who would do that? Exactly. As long as I stuck to the original plan and quickly drove to the Red River to dump her, it'd be done. Thinking this, I gradually calmed down. I hit the brakes, pressed the start button, and the car rolled forward again. Tonight, she would surely sink to the bottom of the dark river. At 3 a.m., after over an hour of driving on the highway, I wasn't sleepy at all. Instead, I felt exhilarated, like I'd been injected with adrenaline. Just a few more kilometers and my plan would be complete. My father would lose his mistress forever, and my mother would no longer be troubled by her. My excitement didn't stop despite the traffic jam. On the contrary, it grew stronger. Wait, a traffic jam? This place was far from central Hanoi, and it was the middle of the night. How could there be a traffic jam? Soon I got my answer. A voice from a loudspeaker in the distance announced, "There's a landslide ahead in the Vun Phek Hill area. The road is blocked, please take a detour." There's a landslide ahead, the road is blocked, please take a detour. A landslide? The road blocked? God, are you kidding me? This was the only road to that part of the river. Something that happens once in a decade, why did it have to happen now? Was heaven pitying this despicable woman? Beep! Beep! The car in front honked, signaling me to back up. The vehicles started leaving the road one by one. A beast inside me wanted to roar, but I could only swallow my anger. Where should I take this woman now? If I killed her myself, how would I dispose of the body cleanly? With these doubts, I suddenly thought of a place. It was a house my father bought in the new urban area of Vinh Phek province 2 years ago. I heard the area was planned for a large ecotourism and commercial center. So many wealthy people invested in real estate there. Unfortunately, the project hadn't started in 2 years, and it was far from central Hanoi, so almost no one lived there. I drove her straight to the house in Vinh. It was a modest attached villa with a garage and a small front garden. I once invited friends there for a barbecue. Back then, I thought that was probably the only use for the house. I didn't expect it to come in handy today. I parked in the garage, took the suitcase out, dragged it along the stone path in the garden, stumbled up a few steps, and pushed her into the house, tossing the suitcase aside. I went straight to the fridge. The beer and soda left from the last party were still there. I grabbed a Hanoi beer, popped it open, and chugged it down. At this point, she was strangely quiet. In the dark summer night, all I could hear were the cicadas and the wind from the nearby fields. Had she suffocated already? I suddenly wondered. Locked in such a confined space for so long, she might already be dead. But that wouldn't necessarily be bad, except I worried the body would start to smell in the summer heat. I approached the suitcase and listened. Sure enough, not a sound. Curiosity, like a demon, grew stronger in me, finally urging me to open the suitcase. The zipper slowly slid under my hand. I took a deep breath, bracing myself, and slowly lifted the lid. At that moment, the woman lay there, eyes closed, motionless. Her hair was drenched from being confined too long, and her clothes were soaked with sweat. As I reached out to check if she was dead, she suddenly took a deep gasp, like a fish out of water, and opened her eyes wide. I stumbled back in shock. She looked at me with exhausted eyes and I froze. "Please, spare me a way to live." Her weak voice sounded. My mind raced, thinking about what to use to hit her, to shut her up. "Please, please, don't kill me," she begged, her eyes red. I never imagined the plan would come to this. Even worse, I realized I was far weaker than I thought. It wasn't that I didn't want to see blood, I was afraid to see it. Even imagining strangling her made my hands feel weak. Furious at my own weakness, I roared, "Shut up, or I'll kill you right now." Terrified, she bit her lip, trembling, tears streaming down like a broken dam. I took 2 steps, sat on a chair, grabbed another beer and chugged it, trying to organize my thoughts. The next morning, When I opened my eyes, I realized I'd fallen asleep on the chair.
God.
If it weren't for the surroundings, I'd almost forgotten what happened last night. Where was she? I looked around in panic. Thankfully, she was still there, hands and feet bound, leaning against the suitcase. In this situation, she'd fallen asleep too. Perhaps because she cried too much last night, her face had dried tear streaks. I grabbed a glass of cold water and, without hesitation, splashed it on her head. She didn't wake immediately, but instead lifted her head, searching for the water, her cracked lips greedily catching it. Water ran from her cheeks to her neck, soaking her clothes. I was furious. This wasn't what I wanted. I slammed the glass on the floor, and she jolted awake. Seeing me, she quietly lay back down, saying nothing. "Aren't you going to beg me to let you go anymore?" I asked curiously. "If I beg, will you let me go?" She countered. "You kidnapped me, you want to kill me, and I've seen your face. Will you let me go so easily?" You're not as stupid as I thought. She gave a sad smile. "You think kidnapping me won't be noticed? If my boyfriend can't find me, he'll definitely report it to the police. Even if you kill me and dispose of my body, the truth will come out sooner or later." "I don't understand, we've never met, why are you doing this?" Still pretending to be innocent, just trying to save yourself another way. "I know these words don't sound convincing, but if you let me go, I swear I won't go to the police. I won't tell anyone about this. Let's pretend we never met, okay? I promise I won't say anything." Just then, the phone rang, cutting her off. Hearing the familiar ringtone, she immediately got excited. My phone. I stood up, took her phone from my jacket pocket. I'd taken it from her bag last night. She craned her neck, eyes glued to my actions, as if clinging to an unrealistic hope. I glanced at the screen unsurprisingly. It was my father calling. I hung up. A message came in. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering?" I swiped my finger and replied on her behalf. "Let's break up. I love someone else now. Don't look for me anymore." "What are you doing? What do you want?" she shouted anxiously. I turned off the phone and said coldly, "You're going to die." She screamed, "Let me go, you bastard. Let me go. You..." Before she could finish, I stuffed a tablecloth into her mouth. She glared at me, trying to make muffled, sounds to curse, but it was useless. Next, I took a few days off from my internship and went to E-hospital to visit my mother. She looked better today, but didn't mention anything about yesterday. When I returned to the house in Vanine, it was dusk. To prevent her from escaping, I'd reinforced the ropes before leaving. So she was still in the suitcase, curled up uncomfortably. Of course, I didn't plan to keep her there forever. I just hadn't figured out what to do next. Hearing the noise and seeing me approach, she suddenly sobbed, making muffled ph sounds of resistance, shaking her head as if begging me not to come closer. I ignored her, walking to the suitcase. But as I got close, a strong stench hit me. Seeing her dress soak layer by layer, I understood immediately. She trembled violently, like a bird in a cold wind. Tears streamed down, more pitifully than last night when she begged me. Perhaps she felt her dignity was shattered. A beautiful woman like her probably never imagined being so humiliated in front of a man. Seeing her in pain, for a moment I felt cruel. After all, I wasn't someone who enjoyed tormenting others. In fact, in daily life, I was polite. I turned back, grabbed a thin blanket from the sofa and threw it over her. She stopped trying to speak, letting tears flow in despair. When our eyes met, she stared at me with resentment. I said nothing, turned and locked myself in the bathroom. The events of the past 2 days gave me a headache. I turned on the shower, letting water pour over me, trying to stay clear-headed. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her staring at me. Day 3. Early in the morning, before dawn, I went for a run around the Vanine urban area. It was a habit I kept for years. Perhaps because it was near a Bolivian mountain, even when I was sweating, I still felt cool. When I returned, she was still asleep. I toasted some sandwich bread, spread butter on it, and sat eating on a chair. Perhaps smelling the food, she slowly opened her eyes and stared at me. In less than 48 hours, she seemed like a different person, withered, pale, disheveled, completely unlike her initial appearance. She tried making muffled, sounds to get my attention. I hesitated, then walked over, removed the cloth from her mouth, and asked, "What? Please. Can you give me something to eat?" I froze. The request was so humbling. It reminded me of a stray dog near my childhood home in the Nam Han housing complex. Its mother was hit by a car after giving birth to a litter. The cute puppies were adopted, but it was left behind with nowhere to go. One day I toasted a steamed bun. I didn't want. From then on, it remembered me, always running to wag its tail and beg for food. I often felt pity for that dog, for its helplessness. I turned back, grabbed the remaining bread, sat down, and held it to her mouth. Before eating, she hesitated slightly, but the next second she devoured it, disregarding her image. I held it there, watching her eat. As expected, she choked. She coughed violently, her face turning purple. I quickly grabbed a glass of water from the table and gave her a few sips. She gradually calmed down. "Thank you." She thanked me? How ridiculous.